on function of complex variable. Today's topic is Cauchy residue theorem, right? Today's topic is Cauchy residue theorem. So here we need some important concept, or we can say a terminologies to be known in order to solve the examples, right? So the first definition that we need is zero of an analytic function. So what is mean by zero of an analytic function? So any value of z for which f of z is 0, right? Any value of z which will make f of z 0 is called zero of an analytic function. For example, if I have f of z as z minus 2 upon z square minus 1. So this function will be 0 when z minus 2 is 0, that is z equal to 2, right? This function is 0 when z minus 2 is 0. So z minus 2 0 means z equal to 2. So z equal to 2 is called as a 0 of f of z, right? So in general, how to get the 0? So by equating numerator of a function 0, we will get the 0 of an analytic function. Okay. Now the next is Taylor's series. Unlike the Taylor series for a real function, here also we have a Taylor series for a function of complex variable. So what is the requirement? That if f of z is analytic inside, you know very well what is mean by analytic. So if f of z is analytic inside the circle C, with a center at z equal to a, then for z, any z inside C, we have f of z is equal to f of a plus z minus a upon 1 factorial f dash of a plus z minus a whole square upon 2 factorial f double dash of a, and so on. Just like the Taylor's expansion for function of real variable. The only change is that here we have to replace a real variable by a complex variable. Okay. Now we can write a most generalized form for this as, so f of z can also be written as, so we write summation from n equal to 0 to infinity of what we are observing here. We are observing powers for z minus a. So we write z minus a. The generalized term will be z minus a raised to n. Then we are finding the term of 1 factorial, 2 factorial like this. And whatever is the power of z minus a, same is the factorial term. So that's why we write n factorial. Then again we observe here some derivative terms. Again the order of derivative term is same as the power of z minus a. So we write nth derivative of f of z at a, right? Where obviously this is nth derivative of f of z at z equal to a. This we can again rewrite it as summation n equal to 0 to infinity of a n into z minus a raised to n, right? A n into z minus a raised to n with obviously a n as if you compare these two, so what you will find, an is nothing but nth derivative of f of z at a, z equal to a upon n factorial, right? N. Now, so this is the value according to this expansion, right? Now, we want to find out what is the value as per the complex integration. So we can get the value of an as per complex integration. So if you recall that, you can see here that according to the generalized form of Cauchy integral formula, what we have, integration over c of f of z upon z minus a raised to n plus 1 is equal to nothing but 2 pi I upon n factorial into nth derivative of f of a at z equal to a. This is what we are having, right? Now here what we have, an as nth derivative f of a upon n factorial. So find out the value of this. So what will be the value of this? It will be 2 pi I goes on this side, right? So therefore what will be an according to complex integration formula? So the formula for an will become 1 upon 2 pi I, right? 1 upon 2 pi I integration over c of f of z upon z minus a raised to n plus 1, right? So in this way we can get the formula for the coefficients in the Taylor's expansion using the Cauchy integral theorem, right? So I hope this expansion is clear to you. F of z is summation from n equal to 0 to infinity of an into z minus a raised to n, where this coefficient an as per Cauchy integral formula is given by 1 upon 2 pi I integration over c of f of z upon z minus a raised to n plus 1 dz. So in this way we get the desired results. Okay, I hope this expansion is clear to you all. Now we will have the next series, or the expansion is called as the Laurent series. So what is Laurent series? What is the requirement? So if f of z is analytic, if f of z is analytic in a ring shaped region, in a ring shaped region R bounded by two concentric circles. Concentric circle means having center at the same point. Circle having center at the same point. Concentric circles C1 and C2 with center at z equal to a and radius r1 and r2, right, with radius r1 and r2, where I am taking r1 greater than r2, right? Then for all z, what is the Laurent's expansion? So it is nothing but given by f of z equal to so it will have the expansion of the form f of z equal to summation n equal to 0 to infinity on the same line a n z minus a raised to n plus summation bn into z minus a raised to minus n, where n takes the value from 1 to infinity, right, where n takes the value from 1 to infinity. Here an is given by, as we know, an is this, right, integration only it will be along the greater circle that is along C1, right? And Bn is given by 1 upon 2 pi I, right? Bn is given by 1 upon 2 pi I integration over C2 of f of z upon z minus a raised to power minus n plus 1. So in this way we have the coefficients a1, an and bn obtained by applying Cauchy integral formula, right? Now this two parts, first part is same as the Taylor series expansion, where we are finding positive powers of z minus a, whereas the second part is having a negative powers of z minus a, right? So first part is called as the analytic part and the second part is called as the principal part, right? So this is nothing but analytic part and this one is principal part, right? So Lorentz series contains a Taylor series. So right, it means every Taylor series is a part of Lorentz series, right? Okay. Now remember one thing, when we want to have expand any given function and that function is not analytic, then it can be expanded by the Lorentz series and not by the Taylor series. I hope this is clear to you all, that if function is not analytic, then the expansion of such functions is to be done by Lorentz series rather than the Taylor series. Okay. Now again note one thing, that if you observe carefully here, in order to have the expansion, Taylor series expansion or Lorentz series expansion, we need to know what is an and bn, right? And which is obtained by Cauchy integral formula by using these such two formulas, isn't it? Right. So now here what is you can have the diagrammatic situations of what is C1, C2. So what I am having a region circle 1 with center at say z equal to a is here, right? Suppose I am having a circle 1 whose radius is r1, right? And center is at z equal to a. There is another circle whose center is again at z equal to a, but the radius is what, r2. And in between this we are having this annular region, ring shaped region, right? So this is what the r is, right, over which the Lorentz series expansion is to be done. Okay. So through figure we can have the requirement of Lorentz series in this way. Now, so what I was saying, that if I want to obtain Taylor series expansion or Lorentz series expansion, then we should know what is an and bn, and that is nothing but obtained by this formula, right, which is obtained by using the complex integrations. So this becomes very difficult for evaluation purpose. So what we do, we just expand f of z by binomial expansion, right? We just expand f of z by binomial expansion. So this is what I want to mention here. Now let us have the next concept which we will come across frequently. So that is singularities. What is meant by singularities of the function? So it is also called singular points, right? Singularities or a singular points. So a point at which function is not analytic, right? A point at which function is not analytic is called singularities or singular points. Point at which function is not analytic, or point at which f of z does not exist. Point at which f of z does not exist is said to be a singular point or singularity. For example, if I have f of z as, say again I take the same example, z minus say 2 upon z square minus 1, right? So when this function does not exist, when I am having z equal to either 1 or minus 1, right? If I'll have z as 1, this becomes infinity, and z as minus 1, then also this functions becomes infinity, right? So therefore at z equal to 0, at z equal to 1 and z equal to minus 1, f of z does not exist, right? F of z does not exist. So therefore z equal to 1 and minus 1 are called singular points, right? These are called singular points. Now let us have the next topic, that is the types of singularities. What are the types of singularities? So there are three types of singularities. There are three types of singularity. First one is isolated singularity. Then also called as pole. Then second is removable singularity. And third one is essential singularity. Now, so name itself gives you some hint, right? What does it mean? Isolated. Isolated means which is alone. No one is there in its neighborhood, right? That is called isolated. So, in fact, what is mean by isolated singularity? So, any point, say z equal to a, any point, say z equal to a, is called isolated singularity. So, this is called isolated singularity if it satisfies some condition. What is the first condition? That f of z is not analytic at this point. Is first condition. Is not analytic at z equal to a, right? Second condition is that no other points, no other singularities, no other singularities lies in the intermediate neighborhood. Immediate neighborhood. Right? Means there should not be any other point which is singular in its neighborhood should exist. Right? So if these two conditions are satisfied, then this is called as a isolated singularity. So we can say, we can take the same example, z minus 2 upon z square minus 1. So first condition is that z equal to 1 and z equal to minus 1 must be a not analytic, right? So obviously function is not analytic at these 2 points, okay? So they are singular points, and again in its neighborhood means in the neighborhood of z equal to 1 means at 1.1, 1.2 like this we are not finding any other singularity points. So that's why these are called as the isolated singularity, right? So in above example, z equal to 1 and minus 1 are isolated singularity. Okay, now let us have the next type. So what is the next type? The next type is removable singularity. So when the point is said to be a removable singularity, right? So any point is said to be a removable singularity. Say again, z equal to a is said to be removable singularity if it satisfies some conditions, right? What are the conditions? conditions are, first one, if first condition that z equal to a, at z equal to a, f of z is not analytic, right? At z equal to a, f of z is not analytic, first condition, right? Remember, not analytic. And second condition is that limit as z tends to a, limit as z tends to a of f of z must be finite. If you are getting limit as z tends to a of f of z as a finite one, then you can say such singularities as a removable singularity. Okay, let us see the example. For example, if I am having f of z equal to sin z by z as a given function, right? If this is a given function, so what we do? So we will first find out the singularity. So that is obtained by equating denominator to 0. So at z equal to 0, function f of z is not analytic, right? F of z is not defined. So obviously not analytic. Okay, right? Now then let us find out limit as z tends to 0 of f of z, right? This condition, second condition. So that is limit as z tends to 0 of sin z by z. So what you will get? You will get it as 0 by 0 form. So we will apply L'Hospital's rule. So according to L'Hospital's rule, we will have to differentiate numerator and denominator independently, right? So derivative of sin z is cos z and derivative of z is 1. And then apply the limit, what you will get? 1. So which is nothing but what? This is finite one. So therefore, this z equal to 0 is nothing but what type of singularity? It is a removable singularity, right? So this implies z equal to 0 is removable singularity. I hope these concepts are clear to you, right? Now what is the third type? That is essential singularity, right? Name itself gives you that this is very necessary, right? Which cannot be removed. So that is called as a essential singularity. So let us see what does this means. So z equal to a, or what type of singularities are said to be essential? So singularity which is neither isolated nor removable. Singularity which is neither isolated nor removable is called as essential singularity, right? Okay, so let us see the example. So example is, suppose we have a function f of z is equal to z plus 1 into sine of 1 upon z minus 2. Let us see. So here I am not having any type of singularities, right? So here what I will do, put t as z minus 2. So what this f of z becomes? So this becomes t plus 3 into sine of 1 by t. If on expanding this as per the formula of sine series, so sine series is sine of x is, what is sine x? Sine series. So sine x is x minus x cube by 3 factorial plus x to the power 5 by 5 factorial and so on, right? So this is sine series. Put x as 1 by 2 over here and then multiplying it completely with t plus 3. So what you will get? You will get it as 1 plus 3 by t minus 1 upon 6 t square and so on. So as we are finding infinite number of poles, t0, then t square 0, and in the next term you will get t cube 0, t to the power n0, right? So these types of, there are infinite number of poles. So such poles are nothing but called as the essential singularities, right? So I hope these concepts are clear to you all. So all these basic concepts are required in order to deal with the example based on the Cauchy residue theorem. So let us see another next topic. So the next definition which we need. So next definition is definition of residue at a pole. Right, so the coefficient of z minus 1 upon z minus a, that is b1 in the Laurent series, right? We have seen that Laurent series is what? It is nothing but given by f of z equal to summation an into z minus a raised to n plus summation of bn into z minus a raised to minus n, right? So that second part is nothing but a principal part. So the coefficient of 1 upon z minus a, that is b1 in a Laurent series about z equal to a, is called the residue of f of z, right? So this is called residue of f of z, and it is denoted by so it has a notation. Either we write it as, so residue at z equal to a, r suffix a, or we write sometimes like this, right? So therefore what we have, residue of f of z at z equal to a is nothing but 1 upon 2 pi I b1, and b1 is given by using Cauchy integral formula as 1 upon 2 pi I integration over c of f of z dz. So this is the formula to obtain the residue. Obviously this needs the calculation of the integrations which we want to avoid. So by making use of the standard procedures, now we have a standard set of formulae. So what are these standard set of formulae? To be used depending upon the nature of the poles, right? Depending upon the nature of the poles. So that is calculation of residues. So what this calculation of residues required? Right? So as we know, the poles are of two types. One is a simple pole and another is pole of multiple order, right? Means pole of order more than one. That is called pole of order n. So depending upon the nature of poles, we will have the formula to find out the residue of a function, right? So the first formula is, if f of z has a simple pole at z equal to a, right? Then residue of f of z at z equal to a, that is r a suffix a, is nothing but given by limit as z tends to a of z minus a into f of z. right? Then the second formula, which is rarely used but you should know. Now when it is used, it is again applicable when f of z has a simple pole. At z equal to a, and there is one specific requirement or specific nature of the function, right? So that is an function f of z is of the form phi of z upon psi of z, right? Function is of this form phi of z upon psi of z, where psi of a is not equal to 0, right? Where this denominator is not equal to 0, right? Psi of a is equal to 0, but phi of a is not equal to 0 when this condition is there, right? Then the residue at z equal to a of the function is given by simply phi of a upon psi dash of a, right? Phi of a upon psi dash of a. So when we have a rational function of this form and this goes to be 0, denominator is 0, right? At that point, then we use this formula. Particularly this formula is used when we have a trigonometric functions, when there are number of poles, right? So this form you will find better as compared to the formula number 1, right? Both are meant for the simple pole only. Let us have the next formula, that is if f of z has a pole of order m, pole of order m, right? Then residue at z equal to a, right? Residue at z equal to a, and which is of order m, right, is given by 1 upon m minus 1 factorial, then m minus 1th derivative of m minus 1th derivative of z minus a raised to m into f of z, right? So this is the requirement. So this is the formula, where obviously m is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on, right? So you can say this is a generalized formula. If I will put m equal to 0, I will get the first one, right? And here it is limit z tends to a is missing, sorry. So here z tends to a is missing, right? So residue at z equal to a is limit z tends to a of 1 upon m minus 1 factorial, which is a constant term. If you can write this inside the limit or outside the limit, it is immaterial. Then m minus 1th derivative with respect to z of z minus a raised to m into f of z. This is what we have if f of z has a pole at z equal to a of order m, right? So based on this, so this formula we will require to evaluate the integration by using the Cauchy residue theorem. So residue theorem is a very powerful and the elegant theorem, right? Residue theorem is a very powerful and the elegant theorem to be used for complex integrations, right? Using this we can evaluate the various integrals of the complex functions, right? So what is this Cauchy residue theorem states? So it states that I'll write it here. is that if f of z is analytic, right? If f of z is analytic within and on a simple closed curve, within and on a simple closed curve, except at finite number of poles, except at finite number of poles within C, right? Then integration over C of f of z dz equal to 2 pi I times sum of the residue at the poles within C, right? So according to Cauchy residue theorem, value of any integral is nothing but 2 pi I times the addition of all residues evaluated at the poles lying within C. This is what the Cauchy residue theorem states about. So this is what we require to solve the examples. So all these are the basic concept one should know. One should be aware of all these basic terminologies. Based on this